Animal welfare has become an important feature in animal production since the onset of intensive breeding farms. Besides raising humanitarian concern, the well-being of the animal is important both for economic and environmental health reasons. In fact, poor animal welfare results in a loss of productivity, both concerning reproductive and growth rates, and an increased need to use antibiotics and other treatments. Recent studies indicate that to breed animals in conditions that consider animal welfare may be also cost-effective for producers. Research has developed important tools to monitor animal health and welfare and have identified many issues in the breeding system that can be fixed. Producing animal-derived food in a humane way is possible and affordable. We have to raise awareness to this fact in both farmers and consumers to promote the best farming conditions. Achieving sustainability involves ecological, economic and ethical responsibility, and thus leads us to consider animals because animal management has an impact on many other issues such as hunger, poverty, disease control and environmental protection. The ethical mandate expressed by Mahatma Gandhi, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated, and the complementary ecological and economic imperatives are increasingly recognized and emphasized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The welfare of humans and the welfare of animals are closely linked. In many regions, a secure supply of food for people depends on the health and productivity of animals, and these in turn depend on the care and nutrition that animals receive. Many diseases of humans are derived from animals, and the prevention of these animal diseases is important for safeguarding human health. Roughly 1 billion people, including many of the world's poor, depend directly on animals for income, societal status and security, as well as food and clothing, and the welfare of their animal is essential for their livelihood. Moreover, positive relations with animals are an important source of comfort, social contact and cultural identification for many people. Stress and welfare are words widely used and they have developed a range of meaning. The terms tend to be used in order to avoid being too specific about the nature of particular difficulties. Many of the issues surrounding these difficulties are receiving increasing public and scientific attention because of their societal and ethical implications. A stressing event is a situation in which the animal homeostasis is challenged. It may be due to a change in the physical situation, high or low temperature, or societal change, addition of animal in a group, removal of the puppies. The animal will engage both behavioral and physiological responses to restore its homeostatic condition. Those two responses may take place simultaneously. For instance, to contrast an increase in environmental temperatures, animals may seek for shades, behavioral response, while increasing the respiratory rate and the sweating, physiological response. Similarly, the introduction in a new group may cause the need of finding a hiding place to escape from an aggression of the leading animal, behavioral response, as well as an increase in the activity of sympathetic nervous system and of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, resulting in an increase of corticosteroid blood levels, physiological response. The occurrence of sporadic stressor events are easily managed by the animal. Those events have no negative effects and may even allow the animal to increase its capability of adaptation. However, the persistence of stressing conditions impairs the animal well-being in many ways. HPA axis activation requires an increase of energetic expenditure, which is detrimental for the animal growth rate. Moreover, HPA stress axis at hypothalamic level is strictly related to hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, which regulates reproductive features. Finally, it may result in an increased susceptibility to infective diseases. Animal welfare is defined by the 5 freedoms: from hunger and thirst, by ready access to fresh water and a diet to maintain full health and vigor; from discomfort, by providing an appropriate environment including shelter and comfortable resting area; from pain, injury and disease, by prevention through rapid diagnosis and treatment. To express normal behavior, by providing sufficient space, proper facility and company of the animal's own kind. From fear and distress, by ensuring conditions and treatment which avoid mental suffering. All these freedoms are achieved by the correct organization and management of the farm. European legislation and academia are working on defining the adequate breeding conditions for each species of zootechnic interest. In fact, we have to consider that different species may react differently on the same condition, and what is detrimental for one may not be perceived as negative for another, depending on their innate behaviors. Each animal species has its own requirements for the 5 freedoms. For instance, social species, cattle, horses, should be housed with many conspecifics, while chickens should be in small groups of females with only one male, since the presence of many conspecifics lead to aggressions. Besides some practical issues, as some of the ones that have been adopted resulted difficult to be enforced practically in some countries, we have to consider that each housing condition may have pros and cons. For instance, although they have more freedom to move and express their behaviors, free-range laying hens are at higher risk of bone fractures, as the chance of colliding is higher in more open systems. On the other hand, battery cages hens have reduced freedom of movement, but also lower risk of infections, since they are separated from their excrements. In some cases, the optimal conditions are the result of a mediation from different needs. The consequences of aggressive behaviors may be limited by mutilation such as beak trimming in hens or tail docking in pigs. However, this treatment has an impact on animal welfare and may not avoid aggressions. In addition, genetic selection have changed the optimal breeding conditions for a species. In fact, different strains of animals may be more susceptible than others to specific breeding requirements. For instance, some strains of rabbits have higher anxiety rates and thus are not comfortable in areas which allow them to perform exploratory behaviors. Moreover, the breeding requirements may change according to the sex, age and life stage of the animal. In many species, as in chicken, adult males cannot be kept in groups unless they are siblings. Farrowing sows have to be kept in small crates which limit their movement but avoid damage to the piglets. Also, age, sex and stage-specific feeds have been implemented in order to consider the different metabolic needs of the animal at the different productive stages. This way, along with avoiding to have energetic deficits in stages which are particularly demanding, it is possible to ensure adequate nutritional supplies to developing animals, leading to a correct development of the hypothalamic system. Furthermore, the correct management of the animal during their early life is also a key factor to enable the correct development of the HPA axis and decrease abnormal anxiety-like and aggressive behaviors in adult animals. Animal welfare may be measured by both a direct approach involving measuring biological samples from animals and an indirect approach which focuses on farming conditions, possibility of co-specific social relationships, possibility of displaying the behavioral response, adequate alimentation. European entities have regulated many aspects of animal breeding and are continuing to put effort in researching the optimal breeding conditions for each species. Examples of direct approaches are measuring specific behavior of the animal as stereotypies, which are behaviors that have not the practical function and that are repeated invariably in response of an uneasy situation of the impossibility of expressing the appropriate behavior. For example, broiler breeder chickens, which are fed a limited diet to avoid excessive weight gain, adopt stereotypies of picking even in absence of food. Pigs kept in small crates may spend a lot of time bar biting. Corticosteroid levels are among the most used parameters to evaluate the stress levels of the animal. It may be measured from blood, but those levels depend on the time of the sampling and are highly affected by the sampling itself, as the handling of the animal may be stressing. Corticosteroid blood levels is thus used only when measured by implanted devices. On the other hand, corticosteroid levels may be measured also in a non-invasive way in feathers, hair or feces. Those levels pull together the corticosteroid metabolized the previous day or weeks and are more useful for monitoring the animal welfare. Traditionally, animal health and welfare was monitored on the whole group by the use of sentinel animals in which veterinary analyses were conducted. Recently, the tendency is to consider each animal by itself. For this reason, industries are developing portable devices which enable the simultaneous measurement of both behavior and biological parameters, as corticosteroid blood levels, body temperature, heart rate, on each animal. Those devices are already commercial for cows, while the ones for smaller ruminants, sheep and goats, are still developing.